we're nearly, 5-6 months into this war that's supposed to be over in 2 to 3 weeks. It's clearly not gone the way that Donald Trump hoped or the way that Netanyahu and the Israelis told him it might go. We are where we are with this. The Iranians appear to have a tight control of the Strait of Hormuz. The Gulf states are extremely twitchy about the Americans and Israelis bombarding Iran again in a way that triggers attacks on them, not back at America and Israel, but against Saudi Arabia, against Qatar, against the UAE, against Kuwait, against Bahrain, and so on. That is the asymmetric war the Iranians have been waging, and they've been waging it very successfully, it has to be said. So where do you think we are, Joe, with this war?
Right now we're stuck, but I'm really glad that President Trump did not take the bombing action that he was talking about. Look, if there was a military solution to this problem, President Trump would have executed it a long time ago, and it would be over. But President Trump has realized there is no military solution to it. And that's why we got into the MOU in the first place. Unfortunately, we cut that same side deal at the same time in Lebanon, and then we were encouraging ships to go outside the MOU and use the Straits of Hormuz. We returned to hostilities. But President Trump, I think, wants some kind of a formal agreement with the Iranians. The Iranians simply aren't going to give him that. But we are up against the tight timeline of major economic shock coming from what's taking place in the Straits of Hormuz, Bab al-Mandeb with the Houthis. And again, there's no military solution to any of this. So President Trump has a narrow window right now where he can get our troops out before we take any more losses, before we are forced to then have to get back into a retaliation cycle that could spin out of control. He's got a window where we can get out right now. I think he's already realized that most of our bases in the region are nothing more than a strategic liability rather than a strategic asset, because that's what the Gulf allies are telling us as well. So now is the time for him to say, hey, we accomplished all our military objectives. Iran has agreed that they aren't going to have a nuclear weapon because the Iranians agreed with that before this foolish war, but he can just message that that was what we accomplished. He can pull our troops out of the region, and then we can quietly use the carrot of sanctions relief to get the Straits of Hormuz open back to a normal operating situation. Same thing with the Houthis. We're going to have to restrain the Israelis to accomplish any of this because the Israelis were the ones that got President Trump into this. They're the ones that got us on board with killing the Ayatollah, which unfortunately and tragically has galvanized the Iranian people against us, which is why the diplomacy track is pretty much dead on it. That's why we just need to get out right now before this escalates further.
You've got a situation where the victory, I think Joe's right. You should claim the victory and get the hell out. But it would be actually, in reality, a very ignominious failure, wouldn't it, based on what the original war aims were supposedly about?
So in order to answer that question, let's step back here before the war. So why did we do the war? We claimed that it was for a nuclear weapons program, which they didn't have, right? And we had ended their nuclear weapons program under the Obama deal to begin with, right? They were shipping out all of their uranium. They had no chance of enrichment at that point. The Israelis demanded that we get out of that deal so they would have an excuse for this war. So what was their actual objective? We all know what their objective was: destroy the Iranian regime, neuter it completely. If they can, put in a puppet like the Shah that will serve Israel. Why? Because Israel wants to be a regional superpower. In fact, Netanyahu, after the war started, said that. He said, this is going to make us stronger, Iran weaker. We're going to get America to destroy all their ballistic missiles, their drones. We're going to get regime change. Now, that was their true objective. In terms of the American objectives, we have this fake objective of ending a nuclear weapons program that doesn't exist, but great. Let's end it for the second time, the third time. And now we have a new objective, which is to open up the Strait of Hormuz because that's what the war created, it being blocked. Okay, but Iran has promised to do that now many, many times. Just take the frickin' deal and let's get out of there. So you're right, Piers. At the end of that, Iran will get what we want. No nuclear weapons program. Strait of Hormuz is reopened. Iran gets what it wants, which is to end the war and stop being bombed, right? The region gets stability and peace. The only people that'll be unhappy is Israel. And why? Because Iran will have become a little bit stronger, because they'll have sanctions relief. They might get money from the Gulf. And now we all know that they can block the Strait of Hormuz whenever we wanted. But hey, Israel, you gambled. You pushed us into a war, and you thought it would help you be stronger and Iran be weaker. As it turned out, it was made stronger by the war. So that's a sad day for you. Honestly, for us, it doesn't really matter who's slightly stronger in the Middle East. We have no business in the Middle East to begin with. And so Israel says, how dare you? Unless you're an anti-Semite, you owe me hundreds of billions of dollars and every war that I want. And you owe me my territorial ambitions of southern Lebanon, southern Syria, Gaza, and the West Bank. No, we don't. The American people don't owe Iran or Israel anything at all. So let's just get our two objectives and for God's sake, get out of there. And if Israel wants to cry, all they ever do is cry. Oh, boo-hoo, we didn't get to murder enough Palestinians. We didn't get to take enough land in the Middle East. We didn't get to murder enough Iranians. So what that they're crying? So we just have to cut it out and just clearly recognize that the Israelis are the bad guys here. They're the terror, literally the worst civilian kill ratio of any terrorist group in the world. And they keep making us spend our blood and treasure on their offensive fascist attacks in the Middle East. Stop funding Israel. End our relationship completely. Sorry, we're just not that into you. The American people are very clear, 60% and rising, saying end our relationship with Israel. The only question is, are any of our government officials going to work for America, or are they going to continue to work for Israel?
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند